Hey, I'm Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO. I'm here because I care and because I give a damn. And you're watching season premiere of fifth season of Unleashed show. Oh my God, I cannot believe it really has been such a long time. I realized today that it's actually the fifth season. I was surprised, like really? And I asked the team, isn't it fourth? But yeah, there you go. So that's a milestone. This is the longest running show we've had on Romaniac TV. So absolutely kudos to the team for helping us build this. Speaking about building things and speaking about longevity and continuing on, today's show is all about continued improvement. I met this gentleman through our guest process, and there were so many things that really amazed me. And one of them was really that stands out is how full of energy, youth, and charisma this person is. And to me, it kind of gives me hope. It gives me inspiration that in my later years, that's who I want to be. That's what I want to be. So what I love about my guest tonight is, well, it's morning for me. I know lots of you guys are watching in EST. So tonight is not only he's been successful all his life, but he didn't stop when so-called retirement happened. And we're going to talk about that. So my guest is Rick Heyland. He is a successful consulting executive who loves living and managing his life by purpose, goals, and effective stress management principles. He lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I said that correct for the first time in my life. I've always said Utah wrong. So point to be noted, my lord. So Rick has been, and I've only known him for, recent times, but has been so inspiring and motivational that he's actually got me to action and comment on things that I didn't think I will ever pay attention to. So I think that's what I want to be in my life. As I was joking to somebody in the team, when I grow up, I want to be Rick Heyland. And it just helps that one of my 9 names is also Rick. So I think I have hope there. So Rick and his wife Cheryl have 6 wonderful children and 14 amazing grandchildren. But I promise you, when you see him on camera, you're just gonna really wonder, like, really? Grandchildren? So living by his purpose statement, Rick has achieved success in all areas of his life. We're gonna talk all about that. So without much further ado, let's bring our guest, Rick Heyland. Hey Rick, how you going?
Good, Sebastian. That was the best introduction I've ever had. Thank you.
I think I actually still understated because I don't know I can introduce you any better because there's so much to you. And I've only known you, maybe a couple of months. In that process, everything that I've known about you, everything I read about you, everything you're doing is so impressive. As I said, when I grow up, I want to be Rick Heyland. So, that's my mission. So, Rick, let's talk about who is Rick Heyland. As a child, what were you like? What was the child Rick like?
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in, I'm 59 and a half now, and I was born and raised, I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and raised in a little farming community called Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada, and had a great middle-class childhood, lots of ups, lots of downs. Played lots of sport. I would consider a very average kind of raised in childhood, and then later on went out and get an MBA out in Eastern Canada, and then now, as you said, in Salt Lake City for the last 23 years. So that's a little bit about the background.
All right. So growing up, obviously you talk about your purpose statement, which we're going to get into, but growing up, as a young adult, you shared with me that you had certain challenges, and what you're doing right now, it doesn't look like, when I heard you saying that, it doesn't look like that person could have done this, but you have. So tell us a little bit about what exactly happened. What was the challenge? What happened in school time, as you were sharing?
Okay. Well, there's a couple of things that come to mind, and as we all have, there's ups and downs and experiences that we have that really shape us. I think one that maybe grabs that might be interesting based on what I chose for a career was as a young boy in Sunday school, and I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. It was my turn to give a 2.5-minute talk, and I don't know if I prepared very well, but anyhow, I was very nervous, and I got up and gave that 2 minutes into my 2.5-minute talk, and I heard some snickering out in the audience, and particularly the front rows. And then it broke into sheer laughter of sorts and people ducking behind the pews and the rows there. And then all of a sudden, a gentleman tapped me on the shoulder and said, "It wasn't your turn to talk." And boy, that just shook my little 8, 9-year-old confidence to the core. I remember saying to my mother, "I'm not going back to church. I'm never giving a talk again. I'm never speaking in front of a crowd." And ironically, that's what I chose to do for a living. So some things changed after that, but that was a real shocker for me.
And sorry, I didn't catch it. How old were you then?
It was 8 or 9.
So at 8 or 9, somebody crushes your confidence like that, and you go ahead and do exactly opposite for the rest of your life.
Right.
I mean, that's a way to live, and I think that's what your purpose statement is all about. So even growing up, did you know at the very beginning of your life that retirement is something that you're not going to accept because you retired, but you didn't stop?
No, I knew I never wanted to retire, so to speak. I always want to have purposeful, meaningful things for, family, work, relationships. So no, I had no intention after 33 years of a very busy consulting career, traveling the world, that I was going to retire. And of course, that was, a couple of years ago, and I started CI4Life, for Continuous Improvement for Life. But no, I don't believe it's healthy to retire. In fact, Szebastian, we can look at the research that, it's move on to something else, right? Rather than,
Right.
hang up, put on your slippers. So
Actually, that's a great point. So, the social construct says you work so many years and then at a certain stage you retire, and a lot of people actually get depressed just at the thought of retirement, and it stops them sooner than they should. And I mean, we all have seen, I can speak for myself, crises in life, midlife crisis, everything else. Did you ever experience something like that and you just thought, oh God, I can't, I don't know how I'm going to do my life?
yes, a few times. And the one where I actually developed my purpose statement might be the most relevant for this conversation. I had so fast forward into my 20s now, and I had just felt very fortunate to get into an MBA program in London, Ontario, Canada. And I went from basically a small school undergrad, did well, to a very big school MBA. And I was intimidated. I was anxious. I had anxiety, but I knew I wanted to kind of crush that goal. And so I got into the program. I moved my family. We had two little kids, toddlers at the time. And I was 26, 27. And I remember it was late October and I was in this economics class with a professor called Don. I mean, I could see this to this very day now, 30 plus years later. And right. I had worked my heart out and I got the C-, and it was one of the lowest grades in the class. And it was like, I don't want to over dramatize it, but it was a serious breach again of confidence. And what do I really want to be? And why am I getting an MBA? And so I had read about people, Stephen R. Covey and other books that said, you should really write a mission statement or a purpose statement. And at that particular crisis, all of a sudden it became relevant. And those thoughts and words and ideas came to my mind. So Szebastian, literally that weekend, I worked on that purpose statement. And it's very similar to the one I have today. And it's I could maybe share that later, but basically it's about continuous improvement. And so that when I applied for my consulting job after MBA school, and so when I wrote that purpose statement, no angels appeared or bells went off or, there was no lights or anything. I felt good about it. But then, you fast forward a year and a half later, and all of a sudden I'm applying for jobs and the jobs aren't coming like I want. And there was a very particular job that I ended up with that there's an interesting story about. But basically, to make it a short story, it had the words that were in my purpose statement. We're a continuous company. We're going to be action oriented. We're going to help clients past where normal consultants do. So it really spoke to my purpose statement. And so that's when all the light bulbs went on for me that, wow, there's some really power in intention, in articulation, in looking forward and trying to kind of manage forward, if you will.
Right. And I think it is that the way you think and the way you prepare your mind does happen, because at the end of the day, I think consciously and subconsciously, you're actually looking for the right opportunity, not just looking for a job. You're actually looking for the right opportunity that aligns with you, right?
Yeah.
So, when you speak of, that crisis that you went through, especially, you're going back to the uni, you're going back to school, starting again, and you're doing that with your kids. First of all, I'm really curious. How did your kids react when you said, we're going back and we're going back with you?
Well, they were only, let me see if I can remember. They were only 3.5 and 1.5 type.
Right.
So they were all in. That wasn't the problem. Cheryl and my wife and I had to kind of really gulp and say, okay, and it had only been 2 years since my undergrad. So, but you start to get used to an income, you start to get used to a neighborhood and an area, and there were good job offers there. So yeah, it took a little bit of introspection, if you will, to decide that. But my dad, he had continued his education. So I had kind of that role model that education was important. So that was kind of the rationale for doing it.
Right. And do you think going back, despite having that C minus, do you think that today you feel like that C minus did not matter, but the actual education helped you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you the relationships you form, the confidence you get, the insights into business that you gather are tremendously worth it in the long run. Absolutely. In fact, the only reason I remember the C minus is because it was the rationale or the start for writing the purpose statement.
Right. And what I'm finding interesting is you got a C minus, but now you have created CI4Life. So you changed that to something really positive, right? So even in that C minus, there was a journey already defined for you that you created later on. So speaking of, how your journey changed as you were getting closer to retirement, did you already know, as you said, you don't believe in retirement, but did you already know you were going to start something like CI4Life, or was it all up in the clouds? And how did CI4Life come about?
Yeah, good question. So I'm a big believer, and particularly for people listening young in their careers, to do an evaluation of what you're doing every 3 to 5 years. And that doesn't mean redoing your purpose statement or anything necessarily. Just look at the pros and cons and do a deep introspection. Is this really fulfilling my needs? Be very intentional, be very reflective, and really listen inside to, is this really going to lead me to the path that I want to be on when I'm eventually in real retirement, if you will. So that is a high recommend. And so I always did that. I knew I never wanted to retire. And, I was tired of traveling. I've been to Australia many times. I've been around the world. I've been to every state but 2 in the United States. So I've done a lot of traveling, got a lot of air miles, and it really wasn't sexy anymore. So I knew I wanted to do something different. So it's often positive things drawing you and tension, right? Or stress.
Right.
And I wanted to fulfill my mission and purpose in a bigger role rather than just with 50 clients, if you will, as a 200-person consulting company. And so I knew I wanted to reach a larger audience. And so that was kind of the instigators, if you will, to start CI4Life.
Right. And, you talked about travel there, and I have 2 questions related to that. At the time when you started, and of course you're traveling, how was your experience? Did travel help you learn more in life? And the second question I have is, why did it get too much? Why did the travel became too much for you?
Well, yeah, good. So the first question is, I loved it. If you would ask me 20 years ago, 10 years ago, what's the favorite part of your career? I would say the adventure of meeting new cultures, new people, new organizations. Like, it's perfect for somebody like me that has a titch of ADHD, that loves variety, that loves, just a massive amount of change. And so, yeah, I love seeing a new organization, a new culture, a new leader, a new group. That is like, candy day. That's a thrill a minute. But after, 30 plus years, the travel starts to wear. You're sleeping in, you wake up in the morning, you're not sure where you are.
Right.
And my wife, she raised 6 kids while I'm traveling during the middle of the week. Yeah. And we're having grandkids. We have 15 now, as you mentioned. And so it became apparent that, it probably is time to slow down from that. And it was getting exhausting, rebounding. The older you get, it's harder to rebound from all that travel, particularly the international travel to Europe or Australia or Russia, right, or wherever you're going. So yeah, it does. Even a good thing can tire after a while.
Absolutely. And, that's where one thing I will still say that you have, as I was talking to you, you make retirement look sexy, and you make really, I'm non-binary, but I can say man to man, really, you give me the reason to feel like, what? Yeah, I can look great. Retirement is not bad. There is nothing called old age. And that's what the vibe you give. You really give that strength and that vibrancy. So what is it that kept you so vibrant, so full of life? I'm sure, as you said, travel got too much. There must have been difficult times. But how is it that you keep yourself so full of energy? As I would say, how do you keep yourself so young?
Yeah, that is so many answers to that. But if I was to try to pinpoint it, it would come down to the same areas that I ask people to set goals in. Physical and health, spiritual, relationship, emotional. I'm missing one there, but so just working on a balanced, sustainable approach. We want to be great. We want to be excellent. We want to have energy and passion till we're 85 or beyond, right? Not 60, right, and not 49. And so I think a balanced, sustainable approach, looking at, like, I've run marathons, I've hiked lots, Kilimanjaro. Like, I love doing physical activities that challenge and keep you young. I love doing spiritual meditations. I love the whole realm of activities that we're blessed with in all the area and aspects of our life. And I think that's the key, is a balanced approach, not just marathons, but a balanced approach really gives you the energy and vitality to tackle a lot in your life.
Absolutely. I just want to take a couple of comments that showed up. So I saw Patty commented. Patty is one of my really good friends, and yeah, she's got a lot to teach. So she says, oh my goodness, at lunch today, we talked about the notion of retirement. We don't have intentions of retiring. Thank you for your insight, Rick Heyland. Well, there you go. You're making the change. She loved London, Ontario.
London. Right on.
And she loves CI4Life, from C- to CI4Life. There you go. And Sanjit, of course, is watching from India. So there we go. And Patty says, balanced, sustaining lifestyle. I am all in. There you go. You're already converting people. And, you talked about mountaineering. You talked about riding the bike. You rode the bike for 206 miles. When was this, and what was this all about?
So, I did a whole bunch of marathons starting from 34 to 49. I run Boston, which you have to qualify for, which is a lifetime thrill. I didn't do that particularly well at Boston, but qualifying for it at, in the 40s is a really good achievement. And then a buddy said, there's a great race from Logan, Utah to Jackson, Wyoming, and you have to do it from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or they close it because it gets dark, and we should do it. And so at 49 years old, I trained for it with him and mostly dragged behind him most of the time, and up canyons and through valleys and hills and all sorts of things. But yeah, that was super fun. And to be honest, Sebastian, I didn't get on a bike for a whole year after that. My backside and back were so sore after
Right.
training all summer and riding all day on
Yeah.
Logan's Jackson bike ride.
Hey, you still, check something off your bucket list, and that's, 206 miles is quite an achievement, right? Um, and, I have to ask you, and I'm sure people are wondering, so how do you look 40 at your age? Because you just said at 49 at that time, I'm thinking, but you look 40 now. So how are you reverse aging now?
Oh, an amazing wife that loves me, thinks that I'm still sexy, and stay in shape and stay emotionally, mentally, spiritually woke, if you will, as the kids say today, and just keep working on that. And I never wanted to say that, I kind of the life that you live when you live with purpose is to try not to live with regrets and try to do your very best every day. I start my day with the same 10 habits every day. Build a routine that is comfortable for you. In those 10 things, I've got spiritual, physical, the workout, of course. I've got meditation. I mean, I do the same 10 things every day for the first hour and a half a day. I get up early every day. I didn't used to be a morning person, but I realized if I want to be the type of person that I want to be for the long term, I'm going to have to commit to these 10 rituals, these practices. And I just do them every day. And my kids think I'm nuts, but you know what? Now they're starting to do it. So there you go.
Right. I think it is about the intention, right? The intention you set for yourself changes your lifestyle, changes your thinking, really. As you're saying, you were not a morning person, but now that is who you are. So it's the intention. And, you talked about how life sort of, you got tired and everything. Yet, CI4Life happened. How did it come about? And what CI4Life and everything is. We'll talk about that in a second after the break. So please, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in a minute. So, if you're tuning in right now, you're watching Unleash Leaders of Change Season 5 premiere episode. And I'm talking to Rick Heyland, and we're talking about how he went from C minus student, being a student of at C minus grades, to actually becoming a president and living a life that's really what I would say inspiring and makes me, as I was saying at the start of the show, want to grow up and become Rick Heyland. So if you're tuning in right now, I'm Szebastian Onne. I was going to say the Rick CEO. There you go. Rick has such an impression that I'm just changing the entire title. There you go. So I'm Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO, and I'm here because I care and because I give a damn. So I was talking to Rick, and we talked about from C minus to becoming the president of continuous improvement for life, and becoming a leader, really changing everything. And suddenly it just struck me, change, C minus, continuous improvement for life. So how do you really make something negative into so positive that even when you're doing a show, C is becoming positive everywhere. So it's like so much alignment happening right now. All right, let's bring Rick up and continue the conversation. So, Rick, I saw some comments and I love them. Patty said, love it, interdependent relationship, woke. And I was actually going to comment, I think that's what keeps you young.
Yeah.
You know the terminology. You are living the life. I think you're not living the age, you're living it now. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Staying present, not spending a lot of time looking in the rearview mirror or the front is the best way to live. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. And Patty says, yes, 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 routine with flexibility, practice daily and for the rest of your life. Absolutely agree. And that changed my life too. Patty says, my mantra is begin again today for tomorrow. I know Patty. Patty is actually my mentor. And, this is something she taught me. So I actually, every single day, I began yesterday. I'm going to begin again today and I'm going to begin again tomorrow. And she talks about there are no mistakes in creativity. And I think kind of in some way you guys align in what you're saying. So tell us about continuous improvement for life. What is the organization? What do you do? What's the entire, what is continuous improvement?
So I love Patty's comment around flexibility too, by the way, because that is super important for mental health and for if there's a higher relationship or higher purpose that breaks those patterns or those routines, that's what you serve, right? You don't serve your routines as with the shackles, if you will. If there's a higher purpose, you show flexibility. So Patty, that was a terrific insight. So yeah, you asked before the break the question of why I got into it. And, I described being super busy, CEO of a medium-sized consulting company, COO of a medium-sized consulting company, lots of pressures, stresses, living my purpose around continuous improvement. But every year in January, Cheryl and I know Australia's got some amazing beaches, Bondi, et cetera, but we go to Hawaii every January to find sunshine and relaxation and have a couples retreat, if you will. And during that, we do a lot at the beach and the pool and read a lot of books. And one of the books I read was Crush It. And I hope I'm going to say his name right if someone in the chat knows better, but Gary Vaynerchuk. And he's a marketing guru here in the Eastern States here. And basically the premise of that book said, you know what, online and in social media, you can spread your message further than you can, dealing with 5 to 10 to 20 to 40 executives. So the idea kind of, hey, I'm getting close to burnout. I still got a lot of passion for continuous improvement, this online idea. And then to be honest, Szebastian, about 6 months later, I read another book, just a small book called, I think Chandler Bolt wrote it, like How to Write a Book in 90 Days. And I had kind of thought about and dreamed about one day, maybe iffy writing a book, but didn't know exactly how. And that's a key point that why I wrote this book. But after reading your book, Chandler's book, July 12th of last year, 2020, I knew the how now. He kind of laid it out in this short 100 pages. There's all these resources online for editing and cover and all this kind of stuff. As you know, I'm putting on a show like this. And all of a sudden, the how came clearly in my mind. And I committed to my wife and my golf buddy and my friends the next day. I want you to ask me every day how I'm doing on writing my book, because it's big, it's scary, and I really want to do it, but it's scary to me. So those were the two kind of motivations, if you will, on why to start Continuous Improvement for Life or CI for Life. And by the way, I wrote that book in 82 days, and I'm very proud of it. It's, a book called Live Your Purpose, a step-by-step guide to living your best life. So those were a little bit of my motivations, Szebastian, to answer your question.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things you mentioned there is, how your mate and your wife, you actually ask them to hold you accountable. And I think that plays a big role, But another thing that I'm finding a theme here is, earlier you talked about how your wife makes you feel sexy, and then you talk about the accountability support. I think the theme here also is when you have that relationship, that positive relationship, and you have that, the right partner, it plays a big role in where you can be in your life.
Huge. Yeah, you can't underline that, and I still have kids, or one in particular looking for that partner. And so I know how valuable it is and how difficult it is sometimes to match and really find that 1 + 1 = 3 or more, if you will, in a relationship. So yeah, even before the purpose statement, it was her confidence in me and my parents' confidence in me that I could crush my goals really gave me a lot of motivation.
Right. And just to say, I was just going to say when you were saying, I didn't want to interrupt you then, Gary Vee, who doesn't know Gary Vaynerchuk, everybody knows him. I have a love and hate relationship, but I love the message. I prefer the F words were not there, but everything else, I do enjoy. And he does say quite a few things that make sense. So when you started CI4Life, since how long ago did you start it actually?
So it was 2 years ago, and the first thing we did was the podcast, and of which you've commented on, and thank you. And it's basically trying to serve personal and professional continuous improvement. So any topic and so I've done now, I think close to 60 episodes, and I used to do it monthly, but now that I have more time, I'm doing it weekly. And anybody that has a message around continuous improvement, both that can help us personally and also professionally. And right now, actually, Szebastian, I'm focusing on small business with what's happened with COVID. Big business is doing fine. Stocks are doing fine. Thank you very much. It's business, it's small business that's struggling. So I actually just launched a new training course for small business and just, got professional videographer and I can talk more about that if you want, but it's basically trying to help small businesses.
Please tell us a little bit more about what this course is about. And, especially right now, people do need something. Small businesses are the most affected and solopreneurs. So please go ahead and share a little bit more about that.
And we can talk more about where to find it. But basically what I did is Cheryl really wanted me to do it professionally. So we hired a great videographer, Pierce Tews, shout out. And he came in and we did 10 videos. And basically the premise is all the consulting knowledge I gathered over the 33 years doing big and medium-sized companies. I want to simplify it for these super busy, super stressed, but passionate entrepreneurs and small business leaders. So kind of that group from 1 to 50, if you will, employees, if you think about it that way, and how to apply these principles of doing strategic analysis, goal setting, and building a cadence and a rhythm in your business to crush your goals. And the actual course is called Crush Your Goals for Small Business. That won't surprise you. I love that Crush Your Goals symbol on Facebook, etc. But that's kind of the premise. Right. And then I've offered it for $59 right now in the introductory week. And it's 10 very professional videos. It's done in workshop format so that you take the video with your team, you do the exercise, you build the plan, if you will, turn on the next video and work it so that you can, my dream is that everyone gets a 20% performance boost in their business and saves time by doing these 10 videos. So that's kind of my dream with it, offering it super cheap so that we can get as many small businesses kind of back on their feet and headed towards big time growth.
Right. And that's exactly what people need right now, because it's, not everybody's in a position to actually invest a lot, but to get that information. So you're actually doing a favor. You're actually, helping in a change that is required. And we're going to talk about that as well, because there's a change summit coming. And I'm actually officially inviting you right now, right here, to please apply for it, because I'd love to have you as a speaker. I think you're one of the people who can contribute a lot to the Change Summit.
Thank you. Love to.
CI4Life, after the podcast and this course, what kind of clients do you take on, or do you only do sort of groups and indirect, or do you do some direct consulting and support as well?
I do some on-site training of small business, particularly with this course now. But what I love to do is one-on-one coaching with leaders that are trying to improve professionally and personally. And so, you can get access on my website to my calendar, signing up. But that's the passion, whether it's a tech company, a sawmill, a media company, an advertising company, whatever it is, And it's interesting because I coach around the three basic areas of the book that I mentioned. Let's see if I can get it in screen here off the sun, Live Your Purpose. But the basic three areas that I end up coaching on, one is helping people establish what is my purpose. And there's two groups that are most interested. It's that kind of that 25 to 35 that are still trying to establish their career. And interestingly enough, it's kind of that 45 to 60 area that have made some money, have done some good things, but really want contribution right now and to continue to be successful. So those are the two groups that I'm coaching around purpose. Chapter 4 of my book actually talks in detail about how to develop it. Hope you're picking up another theme that I'm big on, how. It's great to say in a book, well, you should do this. Chapter 4 goes through the 777 process. 7 questions, 7 hours, and 7 days you can develop your purpose. Because I'm trying to make it from this big onerous, scary thing to something that everybody can do and put their teeth into. And the second area I'm coaching around always is goals, goal accomplishment. I love helping people think about, well, and Szebastian, you know this, the research and literature shows that people accomplish 20% of their goals, or New Year's resolutions is actually lower. So how do we a system of which accountability is part of it? We've already talked about that. But how do we teach people to set up a proper goal setting system? And then the third area, and probably with successful people, I'm pleasantly surprised, I end up spending more time talking about stress management, life management, principles of meditation, gratitude, mindfulness, acceptance, because I'm successful. I've got this big career I imagined. And then, holy crap, how do I keep it all together? How do I stay content, happy, purposeful, and all those things? So those are basically the three areas that I work with folks on and leaders on.
Right. If you don't mind, do you want to put your book up so that people can see the book is it available on Amazon? Maybe
Amazon's where it's available. And again, I've tried to offer it at a lower price than most books in the category so that we can get the message out there.
Excellent. So, and guys, we'll also have that information on our website as well. So, just check domaniac.com/Rick and you'll find all the information in the book there as well.
Thank you.
Now, producer is telling us it's time to wrap up, but it feels like I could have this for so much more. I'd love to actually have you back on another show. But before we go, how can people get in touch with you? And where can they find you?
Yeah, so probably the easiest way is just to my website, CI4Life.org, just the number 4 in the middle, www. Yeah, thank you for posting it there. And I've got all the tools, and both for the small business that we talked about and then the personal improvement on the book. I've actually just launching a calendar or a journal this week, CI4Life journal, that's got places to put your purpose statement, goals. And then on each side of the pages each day, it's got gratitude and learnings on one side, and then prioritize plan of the day on the other side. So we're just trying to help people give a little how again on how to set up their continuous improvement for life. And so, just the website is probably the best way to do it, Szebastian.
Perfect. I do want to mention one other place as well, if you can guide people to that. I saw your Facebook group, and that has some great information you're constantly posting. So do you want to tell a little bit about that group, what you're doing in that group, and how can people find it?
Sure. Yeah. On Facebook, it's Continuous Improvement for Life, or CI4Life, or my name, Rick Heyland, Heyland. But the actual group site, you have to answer some really skill testing questions, as Szebastian did, like, do you believe in continuous improvement? Do you want to improve? Things like that, real easy questions like that. But the group site is called Crush Your Goals for Facebook, or Facebook Crush Your Goals for Facebook. And it's just a like-minded community. We're trying to keep it small, just to the people that are very passionate about personal and professional improvement.
Right, and I think it is about commitment, and not everybody commits. So it's actually a great idea to keep it to the people who really want to do it, and not just be there to be in one of the 1,000 groups they're in. Right.
And thank you so much, Szebastian. Thank you to Szebastian being one of my #1 contributors. Appreciate it.
Look, I absolutely love it. As I said, your content forces me to act. So, I love it. And as I said, I'm going to keep saying it now. I want to grow up and be Rick Heyland. So before we wrap up, I just have one last thing. what's the one message you have for the youth, for people who think retirement is the end of it all? What's the one, especially right now with everything else going on, the huge changes we are dealing with? What's your message for our audience?
Never give up on your dreams. Articulate that dream and stay focused. I love the comment in the chat earlier. Every day's a new day. Kind of have that mentality that whatever happened yesterday, good or bad, today's a brand new day, and put your routines and habits. Don't let discouragement. There's so much discouragement out in the world today. Don't compare yourself versus somebody else. Just be your best self and try. The next day is a brand new day, whether you won or lost. Just put on your very best the very next day and never give up. I mean, there is so much you can achieve, even in our environment of unrest. There's so much you can achieve if you put in the work of some basic habits and routines in your life. And please don't get discouraged. Don't let discouragement beat you down. Get help. Get expert help if you're suffering from that, because you can achieve great things in your life. I really, truly believe that.
That's the best advice ever. I absolutely love it. One of the things people struggle with is not asking for help. So that's perfect. Thank you so much, Rick. Please don't go anywhere. Stay in the green room. I'll catch up with you in a second. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. All right, guys. So that was Unleashed Leaders of Change with my guest, Rick Heyland. And what an incredible person. I am going to repeat again and again. I want to grow up and become Rick Heyland, because this is what, making retirement look sexy is perfect. That is change. That is leadership. And I can see Patty is your fan. I love it how she's posted the book and everything. And she's already checked out your podcast and everything. So it's really great. Thank you, Patty, so much for staying tuned and watching the entire show. Patty says, incredible time to take advantage of opportunities, and beautiful. Thank you, Rick Heyland. Excellent. Thank you so much, guys. Retirement, even I believe, doesn't exist. It's in your mind. It's how you believe. I look at my life, and I'm walking on the streets, and people I've grown up with when I'm back home, who kind of treat me like I'm younger than them and try to teach me lessons in life. And I look back at them and say, do you know that I actually used to babysit you? And they get surprised because I look younger. So it's not about the age. It's not about the look. It's about the attitude. It's about how you continue to improve your life. And who better than Rick Heyland to actually talk about that. So check out all his details on our website, dromaniac.com/Rick. You'll find everything there, his podcast, how you can connect with him, all the social media and everything, and all the future shows he'll be on. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time. Until next, dream big, make it happen. I'll see you on the flip side.